This is Teresa with my Crochet Obsession, and today I want to show you how I crochet Dianthus. I'm crocheting two different types of Dianthus today. The larger 5-petal flower pictured above is sometimes called an old-fashioned pink. The second flower that I will crochet today is the Carnation. I feel certain you're familiar with it. It's also a Dianthus. Now I'm going to be using a worsted weight number 4 yarn with my old-fashioned pinks, and when we get to the Carnation, I'll be using a DK weight yarn to attempt to create a smaller Carnation. Well, that's enough talk. Let's get started. For our first Dianthus today, I'm going to be working with these 3 colors. This time I'm going to make the petals the baby pink, this second round from the center in white, and the very center in pink. Let's get started. I'm using a 5.25 millimeter crochet hook today to try and create a little bit smaller of a flower. The Dianthus is a smaller flower. The old-fashioned pink is a little bit larger, maybe up to 3 inches, so I'm going to try and make him a little bit smaller. The center of the flower begins with a ring. Use your preferred method of making a ring. I'll be making a ring in the slip ring method, which is only a slip knot that hasn't been closed up. And begin with a chain up of 2 or 3. I'm going to use 3 and 9 additional double crochet into the ring. Before you close your ring and slip stitch to join your stitches, count your stitches, make sure you have 10. And I need one more. All right, before you join with a slip stitch to the top of your first stitch, go ahead and pull your ring closed. And then slip stitch into the top of your chain up. Actually, you can do your color change right there, which I'm going to do without clipping your yarn yet. So I'm going to have a slip knot on my hook and pull it through to close that ring. And chain 1. So that does 2 things. It closes the ring and you get your color change. All right, that chain 1 does not count as a stitch. I'm going to go ahead and clip my yarn. My pull tail is very long, but that's okay. All right. That chain up does not count as a stitch. It's just to raise the stitch and go through that the top of the slip knot and pull up a loop and single crochet. Go back into that same stitch and single crochet again. We will be doing the single crochet increases in the top of each stitch for this round for a total of 20 stitches. I am continuing to enjoy the 30 days of flowers with each new flower. In fact, I'm learning probably more than you are, but I'm really enjoying it. If you're enjoying the flowers, and I hope you're making them right along with me, if you'd give me a thumbs up, it helps me to know what content you might enjoy having more of. And it goes without saying, I would love to have you as a subscriber and activate the notification bell so you'll know every time I bring up a new tutorial. and 20. Slip stitch to join in the top of the first stitch. I'm going to go in my back loop there to and slip stitch to join, pull up a loop and clip the yarn. Pull the knot back to the back. All right. Now off camera, I'm going to go ahead and weave in my ends so that for the next part of the flower, I don't have to wrestle with all of these ends, and I will rejoin you in just a moment. The center of my old-fashioned pink is complete, and with the petal color that you've chosen, with a slip knot on your hook, insert the yarn and slip stitch to attach the yarn to any of the top of any of the single crochet from the last row of the center, just like that. Now chain 2, and that counts as a double crochet, and into the next stitch 2 double crochet. So it's a double crochet increase in the next stitch. Repeat that same thing, double crochet increase into the next stitch. Make sure and not skip any stitches because you need all of these stitches to complete this petal. And into the next stitch, double crochet increase. Okay. So if you look at the center of your flower now, you've got used 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches for the base of this petal. The interesting thing about this flower, in contrast to the other flowers that we have made, is we will complete an entire petal before we go to the next petal. Let's continue. Chain 1, and that counts as your single crochet. Turn your work, skip that first stitch, into the next stitch, single crochet, and into the next stitch, single crochet. That's 2 single crochet, 3, 4, and into the top of the chain, single crochet, the 5th single crochet for that round. So you should have 5 single crochets and then also a chain up for a total of 6 stitches. And now, one of the distinguishing characteristics of the Dianthus is that the top of the petals have these little sawtooth looks all the way across. So the way we make those is we chain 4. You can turn the work first if you'd like, or you can do it later. I like to, on this particular flower, I like to turn the work first and then chain 4. And slip stitch into the next stitch. You skip the stitch where your chain was, the very first one, and go into the next stitch. Slip stitch, chain 4, and slip stitch into the next stitch. Chain 4, and slip stitch into the next stitch. Chain 4, and slip stitch into the next stitch, and we've got one more. And into the top of the very first chain up that counted as a single crochet, slip stitch. Okay, let's look at the work. So we have our sawtooths at the top. We have 5 of those, and we started out with 7 stitches. We have the 3 sets of double crochet increases and our chain up. We started out with 7, and we ended with 5 sawtooths at the top. If that's the way you have it, That's perfect. That's what we're going for. Now, we need to walk the yarn back to our flower center to begin the next petal. And the way we do that is we're going to slip stitch into the side of those chains where we did the original chain up. Or it was a double crochet, sorry, that's a double crochet. All right, so we go into that middle loop that's in that double crochet, and then find a loop on the other, down at the bottom of the double crochet. I like to go into the back, but the front's fine. It really doesn't show that much at all. So I go into the back and pull up a loop and slip stitch. The purpose of that, we don't want to add another stitch, but we've got to get our yarn down here to begin our next petal. So into the next stitch, slip stitch and chain 2. That counts as our first double crochet. Into the next 3 stitches, double crochet, increase. That's 2 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. Now check your work. We had 20 stitches in our last round of our flower center, and so we're going to have 5 petals. We only want to use 4 stitches for each petal. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. We're right on target. Turn your work and chain 1. If you want to do it the other way, you can. You can chain 1 and then turn. Skip the first stitch, into the next stitch, single crochet, and repeat all the way down the flower. You should have 5 single crochets and a chain up. Make sure in that last one to get 2 loops. And now begins our little sawtooth. So chain 4. I like to turn this one first. The reason I like to turn first is it puts the inside back bump on the inside of our sawtooths, and so that they all match. That naturally happens once we get the first one in. So I like to go ahead and turn first so that all of the little sawtooths look alike. The first one has a tendency to flare out differently if you turn after you chain up. But it doesn't really matter. It's not a big deal. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Skip the first stitch, slip stitch into the next single crochet from the previous row. Chain 4 and slip stitch. And repeat all the way down this petal for a total of 5 little sawtooths. And one more. Oops, one too many there. All right, and into the top of that first chain is where that goes. All right, and once again we're going to walk our stitch down to the center of the flower. So the first loop that we slip stitch into is the little middle loop, middle bar it's called, on the double crochet, the middle man, and slip stitch. I'm going in then to that back loop. The front loop is fine. Just find one loop in the bottom of that double crochet and slip stitch, and then slip stitch into your flower center to begin the third petal. Chain 2 and 3 double crochet increases in the next 3 stitches. I guess the better way to say that is double crochet increase in the next 3 stitches. And double check your work. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've only used 4 stitches. That's what I wanted. Now, chain 1. That counts as a single crochet. Skip the first stitch and into the next stitch, single crochet. And all the way down for a total of 5 single crochets plus the chain up. And then to the top of that chain for the last one. And now for our sawtooths, chain 4, oops, I'm trying to be consistent. I'm not in the habit of turning first, as you can tell, but on this flower I do like to do that. So I'm turning my work first and chain 4. Skip the first stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch from the previous. And repeat all the way down the petal for a total of 5 little sawtooths. And our third petal is complete. Now let's walk the yarn back down to the center. Grab that first little hump in the double crochet, pull up a loop and slip stitch. And into the next bottom of that double crochet, I'm going into the back loop. You may go into the front, it doesn't matter. Oops, I've got a place there that I didn't have all my plies of yarn. Let me fix that right now, because I'm not going to be happy if I don't. Just by way of review, the slip stitching down to the center of the flower, slip stitch, and slip stitch again. And now into the flower center, slip stitch. Now we are ready to make petal 4. Continue the pattern repeat for the petals until you have a total of 5 petals. Slip stitch to join into the first petal, pull up a loop, and clip the yarn. Just so I don't have a space between these 2 petals, I go on the back of that first petal and slip stitch to join. Just find a loop back there somewhere and slip stitch to join. That just prevents a gap there that is where it's different than between the other petals. All right, and then chain 1, pull up a loop, clip the yarn, and pull that ending knot back to the back of your work. And another old-fashioned pink Dianthus is complete. I like to make this flower. I think it has a lot of character, and like I said, it kind of works up fast and it covers a lot of real estate on your projects. I like it. Let's continue. Let's move on to our carnation, which is also a Dianthus. Now for this, the carnation, I am going to use a DK weight yarn, and I'm going to go down in my hook size to, in American terms, it's an F, a 3.5, some people say, mine says a 3.75. And begin in your preferred method of making a ring and chain 2. That counts as a double crochet. And then 7 more double crochet into the ring. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, let's double count. 2, 4, 6, 8 total stitches. That's exactly what we want. Now go ahead and bring your ring completely closed. Very nice. Okay, now yarn over to make a double crochet, but we're not going to slip stitch to join, just into the top of that first chain up, into the back loop. So that first chain up that counts as a double crochet, I'm going to go into the back loop. The reason for that, we're making a continuous spiral, and we're going to need the front loops of the first round for some of our petals when we come back around. Okay, so that's 1. We need to double crochet increase in the back loop of each of these stitches. So go right back into that same stitch that you just made the double crochet and increase 1 more double crochet, and into the back loop of the next stitch, double crochet. If you want to go, mine's pulling a little bit. There are actually 2 loops back there because we used a double crochet, and I'm going to try to get in both of them because it is pulling. There we go. I got into both of them. And then that stitch won't pull out so much. I mean, it's not going to show in the end, but I just don't like it. And another double crochet. And repeat. Trying to get into those back 2 loops. There, I did it. 2 double crochet. As you're making this flower, we should have 16 stitches whenever we finish this round, but if after you complete this round, if you have 17 or you have 15, do not frog it out and start over, or if you have 15, just add another one. Even if you have 3 in one back loop, it doesn't matter. It is not going to show because we're going to come back with a whole bunch of stitches in these next rows. I'm sure you're all familiar with the way a carnation looks, and it's kind of ruffly, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a ruffle. All right, we want to be sure, and this is our last row for our center of the flower, so we want to be sure and stop at the right place, or we're going to have way too many stitches, and it'll just get super large, and I don't want it that large. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 stitches, and into the back loop of the next one, 11 and 12. Now I'm at 14. On stitch 15, I want to find that back loop and half double crochet and stitch 16 single crochet right into that same back loop. Single crochet. All right. And that gets us to the next stitch. In the back loop again, our very first stitch of the second round, go through the back loops again. You can go through the 2 loops, works the best. And slip stitch. Now we've completed our continuous spiral in double crochet for the base of our carnation. So in the back loops only of this outside row, as well as we're going to come into the front loops, and then we're going to do the center of the flower, we need to create a ruffle. If you're familiar with the carnation, it is very ruffly, and then it still has the little sawtooths at the top, just like this Dianthus. And so that's what we're about to do. So chain 2, which counts as your first double crochet, and then back into that same stitch, 2 double crochet. So you have 3 double crochet into that first stitch. Into the next back loop of the next double crochet, back loops only. This yarn is very splitty. All right. 2 double crochet. I'm going to alternate. 2 in, and we're going to do 3 in the next one. That's the stitch pattern. 3 double crochet in the back loop. And in the next stitch, 2 double crochet. Now, if you really want a lot of ruffles and a really tight carnation, you can put 3 in every one. It's in my opinion, it's difficult to work with if you get it 3 in every back loop. It's just too hard to work with, and I can't get in there to get the next stitches in, which are the sawtooth. All right, I'm on a 3 and then a 2 and a 3 and a 2 all the way around, but do not join when you get all the way around this row. We're going to just slip over and do the next row. We're not going to join up with this round of stitches. So just continue with which pattern you've chosen. Now I will say that 2 in each, the back loops of each stitch, is really not enough. You don't get that much of a ruffle effect. But alternating 3 and 2 and 3 and 2 is adequate, and it's true that 3 in each stitch is even better. But as I said, for me, it's very difficult to work with. So you make that design choice for yourself, or experiment, make more than one. And then look at it and decide, oh, I like this certain one better. And continue the pattern repeat of 3 double crochets in the back loop, followed by 2 double crochet in the back loop for this entire round. I'll join back up with you once this round is complete and we transition to the front loops of this same stitch from the previous row. And the last stitch on this round is a 2 for me. It doesn't matter if you were doing the alternating and if you have 2 of the 3 stitches or 2 of the 2 stitches together, that doesn't matter. So again, don't frog this out if it doesn't turn out exactly like mine. If the count is different, don't sweat it. All right, now we're going into the front loops. So grab that same front loop of that same stitch that you're on, grab it with your claw, and whatever number you're on, do that increase. So for me, I'm going to put 3 in this one because I had 2 in the last one. And another thing here, if you want to go turn your work around where you have the front of your stitches together to form like that, you can do that. It doesn't matter. You can go just in a continuous round like this, back around in the same direction. But you're going in the front loops of that same row of stitches. And continue with your increases. I'm going to put a few more in this row. I'm going to put a few more counts of 3 in these stitches that I did before. In fact, I think I'll do 2 sets of 3 and then 1 set of 2, and then back to 3 and 2, 3, like that. Because I want a few more stitches in this second round. What I have for the first round, just barely ruffling, that's fine for that round. But as we get to the inside, I want my flower to be more dense. So I'm going to come in, I think I'm just going to stick with 3. If I can get 3 in all of these on the outside, I'm going to, on this round. 3 stitches in each front loop. Fold your work down so to expose that loop that you're trying to get into. That's fine. And continue your desired pattern repeat for the front loops of the stitches from the previous row. I will rejoin you whenever I have completed this round. Okay, now we're coming back around to where we started our second round. You'll be able to tell whenever you've finished, just because you won't have any more top loops to go into. So we're almost there. I have 3 or 4 more loops. Do not join. We're going to just jump over to the center in this for the next round of stitches in our flower. Hang in there. We're almost to the end. I know it's kind of fiddly, but this is a very interesting crochet structure. A nice skill for us to have in our tool belt. And also, we'll know how to make a carnation. All right, I have 1 more in this row. All right, so you see how with the first row we had a gentle ruffle, but by increasing just 1 stitch on this second row, how many more ruffles, how much more of a ruffle that we got. It was gentle on the outside, and now it's gotten very dense on the inside. Okay, at this point, for this next row of stitches, you just want to find the nearest loop from that first round. Just find the nearest loop. And insert the hook, that nearest free loop. And again, you have a choice here. If you want to reduce down to just 2 stitches, you can do that. I'm going to go back to my alternating. I'm going to put 3 in this first one, and then I'm going to go to 2, 3, and 2. That's what I'm going to do for my center round. But you have a choice of what you want to do. If you want to continue with a very dense, tight carnation, then stay with the 3. But it did what I wanted it to do for this second row. I needed it to start really ruffling up. And it did. And you'll notice also that I turned my work and started going the other direction because it was just easier for me to reach those stitches. But it doesn't matter either way you do it. But it's nice to have this ruffling start going the other direction. It's a little bit different look, but it either way is fine. Okay, that was a 2. Now I'm going to go to a 3 for the next loop. Continue the pattern repeat for the remainder of the loops in this round. Once you reach the first stitch of your continuous spiral base, you will have completed the first step of your petals. Then we will begin to add our sawtooths. I will rejoin you once I have completed this round of my stitches. All right. And those are my petals for my carnation. Okay, now we have to go into the top of each stitch. Well, not each stitch, but we're going to do the same thing that we did in the old-fashioned. We're going to chain 4 and slip stitch into the next stitch all the way around until we reach the beginning double crochet for the petals. So chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and into the next stitch, slip stitch, and repeat for the entire flower. I'm going to do 5 or 6 here, and then I'm going to off camera finish and then come back for the big reveal. So let's go the next sawtooth, 1, 2, 3, and 4, slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that is it. Once you reach the very first double crochet and with your last sawtooth, chain 1, pull up a loop, and clip your yarn. I will rejoin you once I have reached that place. And here we have it, a completed carnation. Congratulations. If you went all the way through this with me, I know it is a lot of stitching and it uses a lot of yarn, but I love the finished result, and I hope you do too. And we're nearing the end of our tutorial today. If you like this flower, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. It helps me to know what type of content you might like to see more of. And here are all of our 3 flowers, our 2 old-fashioned pinks, and our carnation. I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me today. And remember, kindness is free. Spread it everywhere you go. And until I see you again, keep calm and crochet on.